I don't think it's Hi.
Hello. Welcome to the Rogue Princess Squadron panel of Women at the Game Table, or Women in Game. Is it game table or gaming?
It's the gaming table.
Gaming table.
We don't know what kind of table it is. Usually there are games on it.
Yeah.
Actually, when I game, there's actually very rarely a single table. It's usually everyone in the living room with little end tables and maybe a coffee table.
Yeah. My Monday night game is a dining room table. It's huge. Can't move that thing.
So
It's
clearly
like
we
old.
need to rethink the name of the panel.
Anyway.
We'll get back to you. You can go. We'll come back to this.
Anyway, we are Rogue Princess Squadron.
We're 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5. 3 out of 5. I'm Ange. I have been gaming since 19. I don't know what else to say about myself. I just
How
blanked.
did you?
You just
Oh,
started
get into
gaming.
gaming,
I
Ange?
got into gaming because there was a new kid in school when I was in high school who was like, "Hey, you're reading a fantasy book. Have you ever heard about D&D?" And he roped me into playing D&D and shut up, Corey. And that was kind of the end of the story there. And it's been a very long time. About 10 years ago, I got in with a new group of players, one of whom is sitting right over there. No, not that one. And
Ginger.
the ginger. And they were very much like, "Well, when are you going to run a game?" And I was like, "I can't run a game. I've never GM'd before. I can't possibly GM." And they're like, "No, you need to run a game." And they kind of strong-armed me into running a game, and suddenly I became a GM, which is still a very weird experience for me.
And like, was it 2 or 3 years ago now that you started GMing at cons?
I actually did some GMing at cons back in like 2007. But I kind of did it for a couple of games, and then was like, I'm not going to do it anymore. And then got back into doing it and started actually feeling comfortable doing it. I kind of reached a stage where I was comfortable enough to do it.
If you can find an open Doctor Who game by Ange, totally play it.
Next.
I'm Caitlin. I started gaming much more recently. I was in college when I ran into Jeff Hannes's dramatic role-playing tournament, and the only reason I did that was because there were no dice involved, and I had no idea what this dice nonsense was. And then, so after having done that, I met Ryan, who was over there, gave a wave, yay! And Ryan was like, "You should totally play this game." And I was like, "Are there dice involved?" And he was like, "Yes." And I was like, "No, not gonna happen. No. No." But yes, eventually it did happen, and I loved it so much that now I'm like tutting around like enough dice in my backpack that when you take them out, I swear it loses 12 pounds. That's pretty much my short version of how I did it. I was kind of GMing right from the beginning, although it always takes, for me, a couple of times GMing to, like, get a game system down. But that's pretty much it. I'm done here.
I started tabletop gaming about 10 years ago, but before that I did the Google groups and play by post. And many of you may have seen me on King of the Nerds, and this will be the last con I get to say, "Hey, I was on King of the Nerds," because after this year I end my 15 minutes of fame. So, but yeah, I also recently got into GMing. Although the first White Wolf LARP, I was like, "It's my 19th birthday, and nobody ever shows up for my birthday, so I'm gonna run a LARP." 22 people showed up to my birthday. It was crazy, and I was the only person running. But yeah, I have loved gaming for forever. My mom always had us play board games. We have all of the junior versions of all the games that you hate now. But yeah, and I'm Admiral Princess. The Christmas party. It was the Christmas party for Running Gag up in upstate New York, and that's one of the cons that we have the con chairs in here. That's one of the cons that all of us are connected somehow with. So, and it
I
was,
went to college there, so it was very easy.
yeah. And I just go to cons. But yeah, so we met each other all there, and then I was like, hey guys, you know how there's all those whiny blogs out there? Let's not do that. Let's talk about games. So, and then I bought the RoguePrincessSquadron.com, and then this panel is going to go up on our YouTube, so you can watch it again later. Hi, future self. But let's get to our actual topic, women at the game table in gaming. What was our first?
George R.R. Martin.
As Alana said, one of the things we really wanted to do with the blog is be like, yeah, we're women, but we're gamers, you know, and kind of going off on that when you think of the whole, well, how do you introduce women in gaming? We kind of talked about this, and George R.R. Martin was recently interviewed and asked, how do you write women so well? And his response was, well, first, I kind of think of women as people. And in a lot of ways, that's kind of the same idea here. It's like, yes, we may have breasts, but we're
So
still
do
people.
some of the other ones.
It's LA style, because this is ridiculous that I keep having to yell.
Yeah, so part of it is helping bring new players in, and a lot of the new players are women, and generally just help them feel welcome. Each game has its own in-jokes, and they're gonna be like, why? What? I know with my younger brother and I, we have a bunch of in-jokes that when we hang out, we lose everyone else in the room. And game groups are just the same, so.
If not worse. It's a whole language. Like,
Yeah, we have
a whole language. You're like, yeah, we totally did the MMO with the RPG, and the NPC was all up in my business, and I don't know what was going on there, and somebody's looking at you and going, what just happened?
Yeah, or you know what my PC did last week? I totally retconned an entire scene.
And
then the other person's like, so your computer broke? You know, so when you're bringing people in, especially like, you know, the new women players, somebody sits down, they have no idea what's going on, and there's a complete strange language thing going on as well.
I mean, it's the same no matter who you're bringing in that's a newbie, whether it's a guy or a girl, but I think with women, there's a little bit more hesitation at crossing that barrier into the group with the in-jokes and whatnot, and it really helps to be understanding of, you know, that, you know, the jargon may not be it may be a little foreign, it may be a little strange, maybe a little, I'm kind of curious about this thing you're doing, but I don't understand what you're saying. You know, and understanding that, and knowing when to kind of tone it down or explain it a little better. You know, or not keep throwing the in-jokes at them, because
And not being dismissive when they're like, what's going on here? That, and, you know, we're on the flip side, you've got any women who are coming along, you want them to also feel comfortable and open, and you should, any women coming along should be open to just basically saying, hey, I have no idea what's going on here, versus later on down the line going, it was a horrible time, I have no idea what was going on, and they were all awful. You know, because if you don't say it in the moment and are on top of it and go, hey guys, I really don't know what's happening here, but I want to know in the moment, you're not going to be able to change that retroactively. So you're going to have a horrible time. And it's a matter of, you know, when you're trying to break into the world, you just gotta ask the questions, and you gotta feel comfortable with it, which I think is something, again, it's good for everybody, but we all feel like the women hesitate more on that.
Mm-hmm. I think God, and it's in a lot of ways it's the way we're brought up. You know, little boys are taught to go out there and get it and do it and just get messy. Whereas little girls are always treated as such a pretty little thing, such, you know, dainty and cute and whatnot. And it's slowly changing. It's getting better. I have a lot of friends with little girls, and they're encouraging them to go out there and get messy and get dirty. And
I let my stepkids play in the mud.
You know, and just experience. And, you know, so that leads to, as we get older, it's like, guys are very much like, hey, I'm curious about this thing, teach me. And women are more, you know, often a little more hesitant about it and sometimes need somebody to bring them into the hobby. I know that was the way it was with me. I'd known about D&D. I'd been curious about it, but I didn't know anybody really well who played, so it took that new friend in high school to say, you need to come play. I've told this story before that the guy who introduced me to gaming ended up going into the reserves, and he disappeared for 6 months because he was in basic training. And 6 months is a long time when you're 18. And I didn't know what I was going to do without gaming. I was like, I need gaming. It took me an entire week to talk myself into going to the college's gaming club, because there was nobody there I knew. It took a week of building myself up to actually walk in that door. And I was already a gamer at that point. I just still was hesitant.
But we also think that this is something that's changing. I mean, a lot of people are out there and going, hey, yeah, I'm here, I'd like to play, which I think kind of brings us into the whole, I'm here, I'd like to play, but I'm not the girlfriend thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's the one that we... That's the one that we were last night. We were doing the little, what the heck are we going to talk about? We're going to have nothing to talk about. One of our conversations that cropped up was the not the girlfriend conversation. So when you're there and you sit down at a game with a significant other, or even without, it's like you don't want to be that person, like as the GM, or that's like, well, she's just a hanger-on. She's just that plus one. It's not going to be.
She's just collecting dice because they're pretty.
They are pretty.
But I do that all the time. Is that a bad thing? Have I been lied to?
No, they really are pretty.
They really are pretty. Okay. Actually, that's one of the things that I do for any of my newbies, whether or not they're a girl or a boy. I'm like, oh, welcome to my table, dice.
And I mean, I don't know anyone who's gone to Gen Con or Origins that is immune to the awesome display that is the Chessex booth.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just dice.
It's a city block of dice at the con.
And so, back to plus one. I don't
sorry.
know, dice. Like,
Yeah,
don't
dice.
go on the tangent here, but, because Brian, thank you, never made me feel like a plus one. There was no GM favoritism, there was no reverse favoritism. Sometimes there was reverse favoritism. He's shaking
I
his
have a
head.
favoritism story.
Oh, good. Let's go.
I have
Go
favoritism.
ahead.
Okay, so it was the first time I got to play D&D. It was 2nd edition, so I understand how THAC0 works, and that's like... But yeah, so it was my first game, and the GM had a huge crush on me. So I was like, yeah, I know what vampires and dragons and stuff are. And he was like, oh, you totally haven't played my game. And I did, and I got to be a princess vampire with a puppy that turned into a Tarrasque.
Wait, what?
No
Yeah.
favoritism there.
Exactly this. I was a vampire princess that had a puppy that could turn into a Tarrasque.
Oh, Alana.
Yeah.
Fetch it, Fido.
Yeah, pretty much. So I did not have fun in that game. It was, oh, I ask for something and I get it. no, gaming is about earning it. You go and fight things and earn the things, and you don't
Earn your Tarrasque puppy.
Yes, you earn it.
You know, and I think that kind of, brings into the point too, is if you are in a game situation where there is a significant other who's getting, more favoritism than they probably should, it's like, that may not be what they want. They may still want to be there as a gamer, not just as the plus one.
Yeah, because really, if you're just getting this stuff kind of handed out to you, it's not nearly as entertaining. So it's like, just treat the person at the table like any other person at your table. It's not the girlfriend, it's not the plus one, it's just another player. And they'll probably have a much better experience. Although, seriously, where can I get a Tarrasque puppy?
I don't know, we had matching collars too. Yeah, there's also, on the flip side of that, I have also had the, oh, you're a girl, go away. I don't play Dungeons and Dragons anymore. I moved to Pathfinder. Thanks, Brian. But when I was trying to do the RPGA stuff, a couple of the guys that were running game were like mean about making me leave. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna play your game anymore. What else? And then I found Pathfinder, and they're freaking awesome. Paizo is amazing. I got to meet the president or CEO, whatever her name is. She's Lisa. Lisa is the CEO. I got to meet her at Gen Con, and she's awesome.
Note, Lady Lisa.
Yeah, Lady Lisa, CEO of Paizo, makes Pathfinder woman. But, so yeah, I don't play D&D anymore because the RPGA people were mean.
I think one of the, an important thing with women in gaming is whether it's, women or guys, is step in when you see somebody being a dick.
Yeah.
If you see a situation happening like that where somebody is shunning a girl because she's trying to get into a game, shut them down. Because
hard.
This is a hobby for all of us, and not every person is going to like every game. Not every game is going to be for every person, but this hobby should be inclusive. It's made more awesome by the more of us that are involved, and excluding people because they don't fit your idea of what is a gamer is supposed to be. That's asinine.
And I think we I don't know about you guys, but I think that the culture right now is really a lot more toward that. Like, people are, we were discussing last night, just being an early warning system. Whether you're a guy or a girl, be an early warning system against people that you know already. Like, because you've all been to multiple cons, you probably know, oh, that guy, he doesn't talk to you up here.
His eyes are down there.
He's looking elsewhere. Like, we all kind of have picked up on, oh, it's that guy and that guy and that guy. And if it's a person that you're not sure if they know what's going on with that, just let them know, give them a heads up. It's whether, well, that guy's just a jerk in general, or that guy's a creeper, stay away.
Of course, if I have anybody talking to my boobs, I make them have to learn their names. If they don't remember their names, they have to look at my face.
And on the subject of creepers, some guys, some women too, but some guys don't realize what they're doing. Let's be honest, not all gamers are as socially adept as others. And sometimes you get guys...
socially adept.
You get some guys who don't know what they're doing is wrong. They don't know that, you know, talking to a woman like that is really not doing themselves any favors. If they had somebody sit down with them and go, look, you can't do that. You know, you need to back off, you need to calm down, you know, you need to chill out and give her some space. That can help them just as much as it can help the woman to have somebody intervene in the guy hitting on her or creeping on her.
And I have a friend who, before she got engaged, she would have a con ring. So she could just be like, oh, that's so interesting, bling, bling. And some of the dudes that were trying to hit on her were like, what ring? What are you talking about? So be a little bit more assertive when there's creepers around, because they don't really understand what they're doing all the time. And I know sometimes it's hard to, you know, find your own balls when you're out there and there's somebody like, how are you doing? Can I tell you about my character?
He's got a really big sword.
Sorry, I'm into beards and axes. But no, like, be that the person to, you know, hey dude, you're being creepy. Stop it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason, don't let it continue. You know, whether it's somebody creeping on you or you seeing somebody creep on somebody else, shut that down. You know, that is not cool in any way, shape, or form. But, you know, also, they can change. They just may need to know, don't do that. And if they're told, don't do that, and they keep doing it, then just kick them out.
Labeled.
Yeah. Gamers talk to each other about stuff. So, like, at Gen Con, we go to the Ram on Wednesday because when Gen Con first came to Indianapolis, it was one of the only restaurants that stayed open. Gamers remembered. We go to the Ram, there's lines, we don't care.
Look, we gotta have all of those stats memorized. Somewhere we have the memory capacity for all of that.
Yeah, and there's other places in Indianapolis we don't go to because we know they had bad service 5 years ago.
And, you know, another subject I wanted to touch on is there are, you know, we've taken care of the creepers now, I feel, but unfortunately there are women who basically sit down at the table and are essentially looking for that favoritism and looking to be the special snowflake because I have boobies. Well, like half of us here have boobies. All right, you're not really that special, darling.
75% of us have boobies.
Yeah, I think we got a little less.
Okay.
But, yeah. So it's just like, you know, it does happen. It's unfortunate because it's like the flip side of the coin. You've got the creepers and then you've got, do we want to put hands over the younger child so I can cuss? No. Yeah, okay. And you've got bitches who are just around there and they're just, you know, it's the same thing. If you know there's a girl who is just one of those people who sits down at the table, wants to be entitled because she's the girl, warn people. It happens. And it's that thing that will cascade and will give, because gamers remember, will give other people the bad name. It's the creeper light starts getting shined on all of the guys, and the bitch light starts getting shined on all of the nearby women.
It's the rise of the fake geek girl.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, which is, it makes me want to strangle people. Because if a girl shows up to a con in a fantastic costume that is as authentic as possible, where is that possibly fake? Just because she's pretty, just because she's wearing a really good costume, doesn't mean she's fake. You know, it's like, come on, people.
I love cosplayers.
Yeah, I love cosplayers too, but I don't cosplay anymore because I don't have that.
Yeah, I'll see you, doctor. I caught that.
Yes, we've got a doctor in the room right now.
You've gotten a little smaller since last we saw you.
It's all right. It's part of a time-temporal distortion.
I think 9's running around here too.
Nine's running a game down in the Western room.
See?
I think 9
That's
is
probably why it's all wibbly wobbly since we got 9 here too. It's all right. And tangents. Away. Yeah, but like that's the thing. It's the same thing happens in reverse. But you can't go and assume every guy's a creeper, and you can't go and assume every geek girl is a fake geek girl as well. Otherwise, nobody has fun. Nobody has fun.
Yeah, they're not fake. They're just new. They don't know what you're talking about because you didn't show them the video game you're playing. Where
Seriously,
are you?
I'm always learning new stuff about stuff. Ryan, like, has this encyclopedic knowledge of, like, everything. And then, like, I'm like, oh, what game are you guys playing today? And they're like, well, we're playing blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I have never heard of that. There are lots of games in the world. Just because I haven't heard of your game doesn't mean, A, I wouldn't be interested, and B, I'm fake. You know?
Especially with Kickstarter now, there's so many new games.
So many. I love Kickstarter.
Kickstarter's awesome.
Like, you know, but if you walk up to somebody, you know, especially outside of this con and say, well, we're playing Low Life, and they go, Low Life? What the heck is that? Well, there's involved Twinkies and cockroaches and things like that, and, you know, I mean, it might be somebody who would really have fun playing it.
Or when we say Egg and Upset 555.
Oh gosh, that thing.
555.
Wait, Brian, how does it actually go? What's the full name?
Advanced Dimensional Green Ninja Educational Preparatory Super Elementary Quarters 555. Grade school in the suburbs of the city of the name known as the Spurs.
There you go.
Yeah.
If you're ever at Origins or Gen Con, play it or at least go watch it.
It's definitely one of those games
There's
that
candy.
you don't have to participate. But if you want to participate but not actually play, you can play Sasha.
All the secrets shall be revealed.
Yeah. And then if you like it, you don't have to play Sasha ever again.
We're tangenting again.
We are tangenting it again.
I
Sorry.
think we're coming up on that point where we said
Yeah,
we're just
yeah.
kinda, like, did we cover? I guess we covered all of our Muppet Up topics.
I mean, as you can see, we kind of came in here with a loose look. We're gamers. That's the important thing.
Like, seriously, if you guys just want to chat about new games that you played, we're totally okay with that now. We'll open up the conversation.
Yeah. For any questions or anything. Yes.
What are your techniques for letting people know that you are just a gamer like them and not the pretty face and not the female at the table? Do you have certain ways that you approach it at the table with people you know?
Honestly, for me, it's never, I don't even consider, there are times when I don't even consider myself female. I just like, I'm a gamer, I'm here to play. And I completely am oblivious to people reacting to me being female. You know, it takes somebody being really obnoxious or really obvious for me to realize it. And I mean, that's just me in my own head.
I have kind of a funny story about this. I was hanging out with a friend. It was back when, like, Soul Calibur 2 was out. And I had been playing that in college with my girlfriends and my guy friends. And so it was 2 guys and my friend Evan. We were all hanging out for New Year's, and he's like, yeah, why don't we play some Soul Calibur 2? And I'm like, yeah! And the other guys are like, what just happened? That's awesome. So basically, it's just like, I'm kind of like Ange. I just throw myself down at the table. I'm like, hey, if I've never done it before, I'm like, hey, I've never played this game before, but I'm really interested in learning, so you know that. But if I already know the game, I just start chatting with the people. I mean, we're geeks. Like, it's like there's a couple of catchphrases. You can start with Doctor Who, go to brown coats, you know, like just start throwing something out. Something will stick. Somebody will know what you're talking about. And then you just have a whole conversation. It's like, oh, okay, that's a nerd right there. Or geek. Or whatever. I like geek better than nerd, but that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, that's a whole different conversation. I think they're the same word. So, everyone knows that I'm a nerd. Everyone.
It was on TV.
Yeah, you were
Even
on TV.
before, but even before TV, like I was getting married, and one of my customers came in and he gave me a present, and it said, "To Comic-Con, girl."
Quick, show off the tattoo.
Yes, and I wear my geekiness on my sleeve. I have a
Literally.
purple D20 on my arm, and then I have a couple of characters that I really enjoy. If any of you have played Silvervine, the character I have here is now one of their pre-gens that they will hand you at a game.
And apparently the small stuffed monkey is Ange.
Yes.
Yeah, the small monkey is me.
Well, it's a representation of your character.
She's not actually a small stuffed monkey.
She loves you so much, they had her make a little plushie of you.
But it's like, yeah, we just, I think it's just a sit down, and if you want to head off the whole, well, she doesn't know what she's talking about situation, you basically say, hey, I did stuff with the Shadowrun guys last night. It was like, I've heard enough about Shadowrun that I want to try it. I have no idea what's going on. This is the intro session, seemed pretty cool. And the guy was like, great, what do you know about the setting? It was like, well, bop, 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 bop. He's like, okay, that's all you need to know. Here's the fill-in, we're in Chicago, yada, yada, yada. So if you're open with it, you don't come off as the just flitting in, as the pretty face. Oh, I can clearly do this.
I think there's also a place for being open to the idea that somebody you may not expect is a nerd. There's a girl I work with, she's absolutely gorgeous, she seems like the total not nerd, and then you start talking to her and you realize, well, she may not be a gamer, she's totally into, like, the fantasy books and all sorts of series like that, the TV shows, and you get her talking about that and you see that this girl is really a nerd. It takes, being open to the idea that somebody you may not expect may be totally into this stuff too.
Nerd.
Anything else?
We can keep going on this one.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Well, do you have any advice for young ladies coming to the table, sometimes for the first time with a new game, how to combat that kind of attitude that, oh, you're a girl, you wouldn't really be into this, or the favorite
I see the
song.
face you're making, it's perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know if this has ever happened or anything.
Yeah, well, I also think, like, really, it's getting so much better. I mean, I just kind of ignored it, like, even when it happened, I just sat down, did it. I mean, so I think, like, nowadays with the tables, people are on top of that and, like, hey, I never know, I might have, like, the best role player I've ever met potentially here. Why don't I give it a chance?
I know for me, back when I was a newer gamer, I would go to a lot of games with a friend. I would have somebody there with me so that I had, like a buddy system.
That's good, I like that.
Really good advice.
As I got older, it was more just like, I want to try this game, I don't care what they think. I'm going to show up. If they turn out to be jerks who can't handle, a woman at the table or somebody who doesn't know the system, because I have run into, this is not gender related, but I have run into gaming groups at cons that if you show up at one of their games and don't know the entire mythology of their system, they will shun you and be like, well, why are you here? Well, I'm here because I want to experience new games. But I think just, if you're unsure, go, take a friend, sign up for games with people you know, and if somebody is a jerk to you, screw them, leave. There are plenty of other GMs out there who would be delighted to have a new player at their table. That guy right there in the hat. If he's running a game and you're a new player, you're golden.
It's Golden Hour, actually.
And really,
That's the name of his system.
As a male GM, if there's a player doing it, talk to the GM. If the GM is doing it, call him on it. Say, what are you doing, man? I'm here to play games. It's that easy. I mean, especially because the GM has a lot of power at the table, and if you're sitting there and feeling in any way, shape, or form being treated uncomfortably, call him on it.
Yeah, definitely. and ask the GM.
Be polite.
Ask the GM if it's story driven or if it's hack and slash driven, and then you can be like, oh, I love hack and slash. Get to kill all the things.
Just give me a big meat cleaver and let's go.
I've had I've been running mini games with my stepchildren, and the youngest one is like, I want to be assassin so I can kill things, and I want to kill things more than my siblings. So when I am actually
sibling rivalry.
So
How many scalps can I get tonight?
pretty much. But when I eventually bring them to cons, I know that I will be signing us all up for a game, and the GM will not know what to do with us. But yeah, definitely have a friend or a buddy, or even a small con like this. Everybody pretty much knows someone here, and then you can be like, oh, try this GM. They're really good.
And you can just chat with people outside of the games as well, you know, make a new friend and then go, hey, what are you playing? What's the system like? You know, is it a new game that you're doing? Or like for you? Or do you know what's going on? And can you tell me? And you might as well.
You know, word of mouth on good GMs too can really help. You know, because if you hear from somebody that a certain GM was really good, you know, with new players or, you know, with whatever they were doing, you can kind of funnel new people towards them too.
Most definitely.
Because I like I said, you know, with Brian, you know, I would throw new players at him and know they'd be in perfectly good hands.
And they were never heard from again. I mean,
No, that's
Fresh victims, I mean players.
And we do have one friend who shows favoritism to all the women at his table. So sometimes we will send women gamers to him just so they can have a good experience. But then we're also like, there's also other GMs that are pretty cool, but I only really ever send new women to him because otherwise it's the same story every time we play a game. It doesn't matter what system it is.
Anyway,
any other questions, comments? Go ahead.
I have a question that's not really related to the topic. What's your favorite doctor?
Oh, God!
oh God, that's a dangerous loaded
It's
question.
dangerous loaded. I'm a big fan of 10, but you know, you never have you never forget your first doctor, and my first was 9. So I love 9 in a very special place, but I love Tennant, man.
I'm actually really, really fond of 11 to the point that when I found out he was stepping down, I actually was like, but no, I like him. It's like I felt so incredibly sad when I found out he was stepping down, and I was completely unsurprised for how intense that feeling was. Because I knew older doctors. I was familiar with 4, I was familiar with 5. I started watching again when 9 and 10 were there, and then got into 11. And when 11, it was announced 11 was going, I was like, no.
Yeah, I really like 11, but I also, my husband was in Afghanistan, and I power watched through all of it. Don't do that. Like I spent an entire week like Doctor Who and crying. I went through like 2 boxes of tissues or something. But yeah, so don't watch Doctor Who if you're depressed, but you can watch it like once a week. If you are, it's okay.
And if anybody here is a Doctor Who fan and hasn't watched 10th Doctor the musical, it's a YouTube video. Oh my God. Oh my God. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, there's free Wi-Fi in this convention center.
So who is your favorite?
11, because of the way he can be 12 and 107 at the same time. He's like, this is fantastic. I see all these awesome things. This is great. Oh no, it's horrible. At the same time, and
And you had a question?
Yeah, I was just, you were talking about how you kind of blended rather than being viewed as women gamers, you just want to be viewed as gamers. But I noticed there's also, I'm curious, how much, you may mention about having GMing and starting with GMing, how much of an importance do you put on that paradigm shift of becoming a woman GM? Yeah.
Ooh, I like that one.
Yeah, I think it's important to have women GMs. I think when it's all boiled down, we're gamers. But I do think men and women have different perspectives on things, and so bringing that female perspective in can be really interesting. I know that as a GM, I tend to always be a little nervous about other players at the table being power gamers or rules lawyers, because I'm in it more for the story. I'm more there for the crafting of the collaborative story between the players and the GM and making sure everyone at the table is having a good time. And if I get somebody at the table who's a rules lawyer and trying to be manipulative about it, that's a little difficult for me to deal with. And it's one of the reasons why it took so long for me to become a GM, because I had played with so many rules lawyers over the years that, well, I could never possibly GM because I wouldn't know the rules as well as they do. It doesn't matter if you know the rules as well as they do. It matters that you know the rules well enough to craft the story and have enough confidence in yourself to be able to say, look, you may know the rules better than I do, but this is what we're doing right now. I am also very blessed with the fact that I have players in my regular game who may know the rules better than I do, but are respectful enough of me as a GM to not interrupt or ruin the game by saying, well, you're doing this wrong. You know, they're very good about working together with me to make sure that, yeah, we're doing this combat. Oh, okay, that's how the rules go, and we'll go with it. But if I say, nah, I don't want to deal with that, they're completely respectful of that.
For me, seriously, my get into role-playing was so kind of wonky. I was almost GMing at the same time. Like, I kind of started with that because a little short on the dramatic role-playing tournament, you're given the character history, you're given the situation you're in, and basically you're said, go. So it's almost like an improv play. So my first GMing was basically writing up all of these character histories, writing up the plot, and then like the plot twists I would throw in as the GM, and just watching the chaos unfold. So it was really fun. And then my first, dice game, I was, again, I think everybody's first time, you're nervous GMing. You're like, did I plan enough? Did I plan too much? You always plan too much.
Yes, always plan too much when you're the GM, unless, like...
No, I mean you always plan too much.
Oh.
Like, the players will ruin your plans. Always improvise. Like, one of my first experiences, I was doing the, Changeling, White Wolf Changeling sample game. And about halfway through the little booklet of how the game was supposed to go, the players went so far off the rails, I'm pretty sure one of them was trying to seduce the bad guy in a way that it shouldn't have worked. Like, it was like, I don't even know what's going on here. No, and I was just like, forget it, we're off the rails. I tossed the book aside and just went with it. Because, that's the thing. It's like, all right, you're a GM, you're gonna make mistakes, and and that's when I really hit I'm gonna make mistakes. It's like every GM must go through this. And I did actually have a female GM who was in that group. So it was kind of like, there's like a little support system, and she's one of my favorite GMs. So it's like a little support system. I was like, yeah, I plan, and then there's you guys.
And then they hire your bad guys.
This is a GM, yeah, and then they'd do weird stuff like that. I was like, this was my GM, she had planned a whole session, and we were done halfway through. And she's like, oh God, I have no idea what I'm going to do now. They've already finished the adventure. I don't have anything. I haven't planned anything for next week, so I can't even use that stuff. What am I going to do? And my character was like, hey, y'all want to go down to the pub? And the rest of the session was just us in the pub doing crazy stuff there. And it's like, okay. So, it was easier, I think, for me than it might be for some women to step up and do it. And I think that in general, there are some players who just can't make that transition. And, you know, I think it's just a difficult transition for everybody.
I'm from a smaller town in upstate New York. And when I say New York, that's 6 hours away from the city. I live in the place where apples and cows are. So there is one, well, there was one GM, now there's more GMs, but there was one dude that was the GM, and his games were always full, and I kept getting not invited, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna find the other gamers, and I'm going to run a game.
If you run it, they will come.
Yeah. And now we have a game shop, and we have a comic shop. So we have much more nerdy influence in the town. But yeah, so mine was out of, I want a game, guys. So I'm gonna run a game because none of you do. And yes.
I have a question. And actually, I don't know if you guys can answer this or if it was already answered. It's a little bit late, but it seems like a lot of the games that I've been in, there ends up being some kind of a relationship storyline in there that I'm in as a player, not as a GM. And the groups that I've been gaming with have historically been all guys, and then I just kind of come along for the ride. So I wonder what if that happens in their game, if I wasn't in that game.
You know, that's actually a really good question.
I know that in my games, we tend to have all different kinds of relationships. I'm in a game right now where one of the guys is playing a woman and my character is a lesbian. So I totally went with that. But you have another question. But I think it happens because I've also been in games where I've played a guy and the other characters the other people at the table are playing either swap gender like myself or there's a lot of homosexuality in my games. There's just
I think
The dawning realization.
I think if the guys are you know, if they're just as much into the crafting of the story as they are in the rolling of the dice and the making things die, then yeah, it probably happens too. It just may not happen between the PCs. I know I have in my Eberron Pathfinder game, I have one of the characters is an outrageous flirt. So if he meets a female NPC, it's almost always, hey, how you doing? You know, so I think it does happen. It's just it may not be quite the same. You know, because I do think you know, I know I as a female player, I'm interested in that type of thing. I'm interested in the interpersonal relationships between the PCs.
I had a player, actually, a group that is all males with me and one of the male characters was playing a female character, and he got into a relationship with another one of the PCs. So, I mean, it isn't just like, I wouldn't say it's necessarily because you were a woman, but it happens outside of that as a organic. If you're traveling together all the time, it might happen.
If one of the guys at the table is playing a female character, you almost have to hit on it just to make it fairly uncomfortable.
I think it depends on the group that you have. If it's guys that are just wanting to do the hack and slash, you're not going to have that. But if it's guys that are really involved in the story and want to make the role playing as good as possible, then yeah, there'll be a relationship that you've got both female and male.
And I think all players have different like kind of stances on whether they're going to have that character get into a relationship or not, period. Like, I've been the only female at a table, and I've been the only female in the campaign, and nothing's happened. Or I had another one where they were like, there was a character, they never got together, but they were doing the dance kind of thing, and the whole rest of the group would make fun of the two characters. Like, really? This is going on still? And then I've run into PCs where, you know, it's like, how many wenches can I get for this platinum at this pub? It's like, okay, buddy, you have fun with that.
Wasn't that the story of the three
Yeah.
marriages? Okay,
Yeah.
that's one of her blog posts. Is
Yeah, one of
the
the blog
marriages.
posts is how a character got married 5 times and divorced like 3 times in the same evening.
See, I've had interest in because I've had mixed groups through all the years I've been, and I've had more often the case when I did have mixed groups, that the relationship stuff was avoided with the female players, rather than, because I really think some of the guys were uncomfortable trying to have that kind of interaction with the girl that they.
Yeah, because like I would think they don't want it to be taken the wrong way. It's like, look, what happens in PC-verse stays in PC-verse.
Well, I mean, when it comes down to it, a bunch of guys together talk about sex differently than a bunch of guys and girls do, just as a bunch of girls talk about it differently than a mixed group does. So
I know that my group talks about it way different when I'm not there. I don't think they talk about it.
oh, Alana.
Alana's just a troublemaker, man.
I am a troublemaker. But I also, there's also a lot of bromance that happens in my games, because there's guys that have been friends for forever, and they make characters and they're like, dude.
It's about 12:52, so we probably got time for one more question.
In the next gender group, assuming everything is going well, there's no favoritism, there's no creeping. Is there a blind spot that guys tend to have GMs?
I didn't quite hear him.
Is there a certain kind of behavior that's not necessarily like harmful, but it's just something that we tend to miss? Is there something that you would enjoy more that we're providing in terms of the game?
I think it really depends on the GM. I think that's more of a...
And the player. Because that's more of a GM player, like, you know, if the player, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's more of a GM issue. If the GM has more of a blind spot, it's something they're going to have anyway. I don't have a generalization towards it, because it's male GMs, female GMs. I've had some that are fantastic, some that are, they get focused on 1 or 2 players, or they don't listen to what other people are saying. So I think it's more of a based on an individual GM thing. One of the things we talked about that we didn't work into the first part of this was crap, I just drew a blank. Was for female gamers, sometimes we don't speak up when we should. Like if the guys are making jokes that we're uncomfortable with, sometimes we'll be a little more quiet about it than we should be. Where it's important, I think, as whether you're guy or girl, if somebody's doing something you don't like, speak up about it, and use that same ability to speak up for yourself with the GM if they're doing something in the game you don't like.
And do what you just did. Ask the players. I mean, you're asking us, but we're not sitting at your table yet. But ask them. They'll tell you. They'll probably have your ear off about it. Well, I love this thing, but this thing, like all of your players, not just female ones. Get everybody in there if you want to have the conversation. I mean, just have the full conversation. That's really the best thing you could do, is what you just did.
Yeah, and one of the things that my Monday night group does, instead of love or hate what happened in the game, we do most like and least like, and then favorite moment of the game. So we always leave like 20 minutes before everybody has to leave at the end of the game, so we can do most like and least like. And I know that my GMing has gotten much better because of it, and I know that because we do round table GMing there. We're like, I'm a GM and I can run this game, and this is a scenario. Do you want to play it? And then you get a yes or no.
Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it, and we hope you had fun.